Imagine walking into a crowded room where the lights are blinding everything, every voice sounds like you're screaming, and your clothes feel like sandpaper against your skin. You're trying to focus, but the world around you is just too much. That is what sensory overload feels like. That is what sensory overload feels like to many autistic individuals every single day. So today we're diving into the reality of sensory overload. See, we just look at autism in certain aspects of it. We don't really understand what's really going on in the mind, in the head, in the body of somebody with autism. A lot of times it's mistaken for things that it's really not. We need to understand how sensory overload affects autistic individuals. And most importantly, how can we create a world that is more understanding and supportive? That is what we are here to do on the South Got Something to Say podcast today. So whether you're a parent, a teacher, or just someone who wants to learn more, this episode is going to challenge the way you see autism and sensory experiences. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this episode. This is one of the most powerful episodes that I have ever broadcast in my life. What a show we got for y'all today. So the first thing we're going to talk about, what is autism? What is autism? And we're going to define autism for you. And we're going to give you a brief explanation of why we bringing awareness to autism. Because this conversation is really, really important. So understanding autism. Autism is a spectrum disorder. Hypersensitivity. Loud noise can be painful. Fluorescent light can appear blinding. Clothing texture, strong smells, all of that affects somebody with a sensory overload. So the question is, the first question we got to ask ourselves, and the first question we got to answer is, what is a sensory overload? A sensory overload happens when the brain receives more sensory input than it can process at once. It's not just a discomfort, it's a neurological reaction that triggers distress. So for everybody that who never experienced a sensory overload, for everybody that literally see people around and you wonder why they act like this, let me show you a sensory overload. Fair use, fair use. How disturbing was that to your ears? Imagine walking around, hearing that every day. Just imagine every day what you just saw in that video is how you move around every day. And so we got to be more understanding when we look at people with autism. When we look at our itty bitties with autism, we have to be more understanding. A sensory overload happens when that means the brain is receiving more sensory, is more things coming into the brain that the brain can process at once. So when we start to look at our kids who are literally affected by a sensory overload, you gonna understand why they're being disruptive. You're gonna understand why loud noises bother them, or lights blind them. And some of the common signs in reaction to a sensory overload is when you see them covering their ears, or shielding their eyes, or withdrawing from stimulation. They have difficulty responding to verbal instructions because their brain is trying to process so much. And you tell them, sit down somewhere. And they already having a challenging time. They already having a challenging time processing the stuff that's going on around them. And you are yelling at them. And this is going on. And the bell is ringing. And the music is playing. And some kid hitting the pencil. They hear it and feel it all. So that when you get your sudden mood changes, your increased anxiety. That's when you get your meltdowns, crying, screaming, bolting, repetitive movement. That is not a tantrum. It's a neurological response. So many times we label our children as bad. That's one of our favorite words to use is bad, but we don't understand. We don't try to understand. So that's why we're bringing awareness. That's why we're bringing awareness to autism. That's why we're bringing awareness to specifically the sensory overload. The kids have brain is trying to process more than it can at one time. And a lot of times they'll give you the fight or flight response. When they are overwhelmed, some autistic individuals may want to flee the situation. Most of them become defensive. And when we are in our school system, so many of our kids are being labeled disruptive. So many of our kids being labeled as a behavior problem because many schools, especially in rural areas, are not equipped to handle sensory sensitivities, sensory situations. A lot of our autistic kids are misunderstood and labeled as disruptive. That's some of the challenges that we have in education, and not only in education, in society. There is a lack of proper accommodations for kids who have sensory sensitivity. Where are they quiet places? In your schools, where are your quiet places? I remember me and my former educational director, we sat down because on a daily basis, I deal with this every day. Most of my students have some type of behavior challenge, some type of behavior treatment needed, and most of it is autism. But me and my former education director sat down and said, what can we do? So we created what we call a sensory room. We put bright colors. We put sensory items all around the room. We put beanbag chairs and everything, a quiet place where they can relax. We created a sensory room. Things that the students react positively to, we put them all in one room. Gave them sensory bands that could pop, fidget spinners. We gave them all. And then guess what? we start to see a better reaction out of those kids. We got to be able to address sensory sensitivities. And we got to stop labeling our kids disruptive without understanding sensory overload. That's why I specifically decided to talk about sensory overload today, because a lot of times our kids are reacting. A lot of times our kids are reacting. Let's get to some of the comments before we move on. There are different kind of autism is a spectrum. It's a spectrum for a reason, because it's different everywhere. This is not a genealogical issue. It ain't a vaccine issue. It's a superpower, something like being an X-Man. Teach. My granddaughter had been diagnosed with autism. She calms herself down by counting backwards to 20. You see what I mean? It's many ways. But see, she calms herself down by sitting down and counting. That means I got to block out all of the noise around me so I can focus in on counting to 20. But the first thing we do is literally call them disruptive. This child so bad. This child so bad. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this bad child. But we need to understand it's more. If a child is reacting a certain way, it may be a reason. This is why we focus in on our itty bitties. This is why we lock in on our itty bitties, because so many times they're being miscategorized, they're being labeled, and we're not getting to the real issues. We are not getting to the real issues because so many times we want to pop them. Now you just added another distress to them when they already distressed. I showed you a video of what they are experiencing. Every little noise, their brain can't input it all at one time. So we're gonna raise awareness to this issue. We got to be aware of what's really going on. You told her right. And we gotta support each other. We gotta support each other. Our children is the one being left behind, especially the ones that look like us. And if you don't see what Donald Trump doing to the Department of Education, it's gonna directly affect children that looks just like me and you. How do you feel about the future educational cuts will impact teachers? It's gonna affect it. Special education is going to be directly affected by this dismantling of the Department of Education. Special education services going to be directly affected by dismantling the Department of Education. The civil rights protections that was put in for our student with disabilities going to be directly affected by dismantling the Department of Education. And if you don't think they ain't know that when they will create Project 2025, you sadly mistaken. How early should a parent have a child tested, and should they have reservations about their children's issues? I don't know directly the answer to that. Is some studies that I have seen, and I wish I had somebody who was more aware to the psychology behind this, but I think anything before 3 years old is kind of early, but you can start seeing signs. See, a lot of times we want children to move when we want them to move. We want our children walking at 4 months. That's what I heard to 3 years old. I heard as early as 3 years old myself. Because it's real. We cannot get confused. A lot of us, we'll see just say that we have a cousin or a sister or a brother that got a baby and they baby start walking at 9 months. And your baby ain't walking at 9 months. Oh, my baby delayed, my baby slow, my baby this, my baby that. Stop. Stop labeling these children before time. Give these children time. Y'all already know. Some children ain't gonna walk at 7 months. Some children ain't gonna walk at 9 months. That don't mean they delayed. So that's why I say 3 years old. We gotta understand and lock in on what we locked into. We gotta know that this sensory overload stuff is real. And if you don't believe it's real, come see if you can take a tour of me at work. Come with me. I work in a behavior treatment facility. That's my passion. That's what I've been called to do. Everybody can't do it. It ain't for the weak. And don't think this is just an itty bitty issue. Teenagers, adults deal with autism as well. Many work environments are overstimulating. Bright lights, noisy, loud coworkers, uncomfortable uniforms, all of this. And so many employers often lack awareness about sensory sensitivities. And a lot of them don't care. A lot of them just don't care. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing today when we're talking about bringing awareness, this Autism Awareness Month, and everybody want to put on their blue like I did. Everybody want to post a fancy picture about autism, but can we really bring true awareness to what's really going on inside the minds of people with autism? Can we really and truly get inside the head and try to understand through research and stop listening when you got Robert Kennedy Jr. as your health secretary? You already going backwards. So now in this segment, we're gonna talk about how to support. This is what we're gonna talk about, how to support someone with autism, someone who's dealing with a sensory overload. Mr. Howard, when we get the kids help, is there also supported parents? And that's the most important piece of it. Parents got to be supportive. Parents got to be aware. Parents got to be knowledgeable. Parents, you got to understand exactly what's going on with your baby. Don't just let nobody tell you that your baby got autism and you don't go do the research. You got to research it yourself. You got to know how to take care of your baby. You got to understand when your baby having a sensory overload. You got to understand when it's becoming overwhelming. Shouldn't nobody be able to tell you about your baby? Do the research. Do the research. So many times we just listen to the doctor and we go around and tell our friends, oh, my baby got autism. But what research have you done? What strategies, what you have put in place? Did you create you a little sensory room for your baby? See, when me and my educational director sit down, we was trying to sit down to see how can we help these babies. And so that's how the idea of a sensory room came up. This the same thing you could do in your house. Bright colors, quiet places, bean bags, sensory toys. Find things that can take their mind off of this overstimulation they're receiving. This ain't rocket science. It is about a want to and a need to. If you want to and you know you need to, you'll do it. But so many times we get caught up and we don't properly support our babies. Even though we love our babies, that ain't taken away from the love. It's just the lack of knowledge, the lack of research, the lack of time you put into learning about what exactly your baby dealing with. How many people with kids with autism even heard of sensory overload? How many of them even watch the video of kind of get an idea of what a sensory overload looks like? How many got fidget tools in their house? Or deep pressure objects to help them focus? How many of them use clear, simple communication? Start all that hollering and screaming and yelling at them that's increasing their sensory overload. They use direct, specific, simple communication. That's how you support someone with autism. Be mindful of the lighting. Be mindful of how loud you turn your music up. Your baby overstimulated because you're in the next room getting it in, partying, having a good time, music blasting everywhere, and they all over the place mentally. You got to create quiet space for self-regulation. They can do it. You see the man that put up there that my baby counts to 20. My baby counts to 20. That's our self-regulation. In some places, they call them coping skills or whatever you want to call it. But they need time. They need to know how to self-regulate. And they need the ability and the space to do it. They need the ability and the space to do it. They need the know-how and the space. This is real. This is nothing that you got to look at it. 1 in 36 kids in the United States suffer with some form of autism. 1 in 36 kids have sensory processing differences. So we got to understand autism as a spectrum disorder. It is a spectrum disorder because each sensory experience different. They vary. You have some that's hypersensitivity, that's over-responsive. You have some that's hyposensitive, that's under-responsive. You got to know the difference. If your baby goes and shut down, they may be experiencing a sensory overload. Some autistic individuals crave stronger sensory input. Sometimes you got to turn the music up louder, spin, and do deep pressure. Some you got to turn the music down. You got to know which one is hypersensitive or hyposensitive. That's on you. That's you learning your babies. I tell you, I deal with it on a daily basis. I deal with it to the fact I went and got my master's in special education to learn more. So I'm not talking from the lack of experience. I'm talking because I see it every day. I see how they calm themselves down. I see them self-regulate. I just have a problem with people not understanding. Let's get back. Let's look at some comments. There's a lot of adults being diagnosed with adult ADHD. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. In our community, we often repeat what we learn. When an adult never got help and they become parents, we necessary for educators to get involved. Right, that's a very, very important issue. Just because when you was little, or just because when you was a baby, nobody was talking about autism, don't mean it ain't real. Just because you got popped on your behind, don't mean you got to pop this baby on his behind. Once you know better, you do better. Once you know better, you do better. And a lot of times we're repeating what we saw, and it worked in your mind for you. In your mind, it worked for you. So that's how it should be. My daddy beat it out of me. Well, beating and autism don't go hand in hand. And you wonder why your baby ain't getting no better. And you wonder why now doctors prescribing different things for your baby. Now you're wondering why people are coming in and want to take your baby. And you wonder why your baby grows up and end up in jail or end up in prison, because we are trying to steer things like they were steered in the 60s and the 70s, and it's 2025. Let's talk about it. We're trying to steer the ship the same way we were steering it 40 years ago today. Now, the Bible tells you spare the rod, spoil the child. I ain't saying that. But understanding if this rod need to be spared or if something else, some type of other intervention is needed. And it ain't always take them to the doctor. It's always, sometimes it's about learning what you can do for yourself. I hate to be the one that have to use Autism Awareness Month to raise awareness for autism, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Y'all already know how passionate I am about the itty bitties. It's just that simple. I'm gonna raise real awareness that we'll actually know what goes on. We're gonna know exactly what goes on with our itty bitties. We're gonna know what's going on with our itty bitties. Fair use, fair use. These are for educational purpose only. Truth be told, babies walk around like that video every day. And what we doing, we popping them on their hand when they yell. Or when they throw what you call a tantrum. When really it's a neurological response. We got to lock in on our itty bitties. And on the South Got Something to Say podcast, that's exactly what we doing. So when you say Autism Awareness Month, we're going to raise some real awareness. Let's get it. Let's go. What a show we have for y'all today. Y'all already know how it is. Each one teach one over here on the South Got Something to Say podcast. Y'all share the video. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We talked about autism today. Share the video with somebody who's dealing with autism. Share it. Because we got a lot of resources that we got for y'all. Let's talk about some resources. Let's talk about some resources. Yes, yes, yes. Let's get to some resources. All right, y'all can go. Hey, write these down, put them in Google, and they'll help you. They got an autism speech resource guide. Very Googleable. And I'm going to have all of these. I'm going to have all these links in the comment section. CDC autism information. National Autism Center Parent Resources. Autism Society Education and Support. Organization for Autism Research. All of those links will be in the description. We got resources. It's time for us to get out and do our own research. So some of the key takeaways, we talked about sensory overload today. Why understanding sensory processing is crucial for supporting the autistic community. Our itty bitty with autism, understanding sensory processing is crucial for supporting our itty bitties with autism. Encouragement to spread awareness, shape resources, and be an advocate for sensory-friendly environments. Y'all, let's create some sensory-friendly environments in your churches, in your schools, in your homes. Let's create some sensory-friendly environments. And always remember that we do this over here on the South Got Something to Say podcast. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and on for the itty bitties. For our babies, for our teenagers, for our college students, and for our transitioning into adult world. That's why we over here on the South Got Something to Say podcast. And I need y'all to understand, if you really like what I'm doing, subscribe to the Facebook channel. Go over to the YouTube and subscribe to the South Got Something to Say podcast. We're doing good over there on YouTube. We building over there on YouTube. Nobody said the road was gonna be easy. I ain't looking for no overnight success. I ain't looking for no viral moment. I want to help itty bitties. I want to build so special that can help itty bitties even when I'm long and gone. This is what we building over here on the South Got Something to Say podcast. We don't care about instant verification. I ain't looking for man validation. Why would I look for man validation when man crucified a man that was perfect? Whoa, don't talk about that. Why would I look for validation from men when men crucified somebody that was perfect? Each one, teach one, love or be loved. So thank everybody in the comments, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube page.